Jonathan, how you doing, man?
Doing great.
Um, I got to know you maybe I guess a year and a half ago, and have a great deal of respect for you and all that you're doing in the media world and helping churches and media professionals kind of do what they do better. And I wanted to reach out to you, maybe do a kind of a impromptu interview with you, and maybe pick your brain a little bit about some of the things that you already do with regards to media.
Yeah, for sure.
I got to know your work, or at least a platform that you started years ago, um, in churchstagedesignIdeas.com. And I know that's just one of the many things you do, but tell me a little bit about how you got started in that and where it's at now.
Yeah, so for a while I was working at a church in Corpus Christi, Texas as the creative director. And that involved, everything from leading worship to designing graphics, websites, video, audio, all sorts of fun stuff. And one of the things we were doing is kind of trying to rebrand, almost modernize our church that had been around for 50 years in the city. Everyone kind of knew what the church was, but they didn't actually know what the church was because it had changed so much. So part of that was rebranding name, kind of trying to update the interior of the building, and stage design was a big part of that. I didn't really know at the time that that was like a thing. I didn't know that people did that at churches. I mean, I'd seen, a few larger churches do like scenic stuff, like, turning their church stage into a pirate ship or something like that. But I didn't know it was more like I didn't know there was kind of this new modern movement of stage design. So I did that. I blogged about it on my personal blog and saw that a lot of people were finding that particular post and just really engaging with that. So I realized, man, maybe there's more people doing this than I thought. So I started kind of putting together, just sort of public research on the topic and what other churches were doing. And the site kind of grew from there. And now it just reaches tons and tons and tons of people across the world who do this sort of thing for the church.
Yeah, I was really blessed by the platform because, I'm on staff at mid-sized church, smaller overall as far as media is concerned, and we didn't have any budget, and so when I first started, trying to up the game as far as media was concerned at the church, I had to kind of figure out creative ways to do things where it didn't cost money because there just wasn't any money to put towards it. And that's when I stumbled across your site, and it really, it helped me out tremendously because it provided not just ideas, but walked you through how to make those ideas happen. And those ideas, the range of cost for those ideas is anywhere from 10 or $12 for some flagging tape, all the way up to obviously larger budgets. But for the most part, the platform seems to be one where people are creative and not trying to basically put all their money into it. They just put their creative mind into it, and the products are really cool.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. I guess the site sort of hit the upswing of Pinterest and this DIY movement. The maker movement is what they're calling it now. It just kind of hit this wave that I didn't realize was going on in the nation at that time. And it was just one sort of facet of that sort of Pinterest culture that has kind of spawned recently. And it's kind of cool. So, so much of that Pinterest culture is, seeing the looks that you see in, a really expensive home decor store and realizing you can do that for yourself for way less money than just buying it pre-made. And that's the same sort of thing with stages. We see these gigantic, U2 tour or Coldplay tour that's, really expensive lighting, really expensive rigging. And, it's kind of finding a way to do that with the church budget, which is not nearly what necessarily those industrial budgets have.
Yeah. So what kind of viewers or hits are you getting on that website now? You started in 2008?
I think like 2010, probably 2009, around there.
Okay.
Yeah, it's getting around. I don't know the actual number of people, but the actual views, like page views, is about 400,000 a month, which is just, I didn't realize there were that many churches doing that. It shocked me, and it still kind of shocks me that there's that many people just looking for that. I think it's probably around like 60,000 individual unique people that go to the site. So I mean, if you think about that, that's a lot of churches that are kind of in the same boat, and
Yeah.
kind of encouraging for those of us that maybe feel like we're alone.
Yeah, it is. It's very encouraging. It's almost like a community of like-minded people from all around the globe, really, that are coming together with the similar thoughts and the similar focus of how can we better what our church is doing on a media side of things with not necessarily the most resources. It's also very creative in helping people to kind of think through alternatives and ways to do things. And so it's great. But so you started with church stage design ideas, and that's kind of spawned into several other things. I know you've got Sunday Mag, and tell us a little bit about Sunday Mag.
Yeah, Sunday Mag is a free online magazine all about the creative process of making church happen. I've just kind of seen like the same thing that Church Stage Design was able to do for the stage design community. I wanted to create something like that for just the general, the worship leader who does everything, who's also involved in marketing, who's also involved in leadership, stuff like that. So really just wanted to grab some of the great voices that I would want to hear from in a magazine and put together. It's just a free online magazine. Each month there's 12 articles that are just like solid stuff in a world of blogs where 20 things to tweet this week. That's great. And we need those, but I feel like there's so many blogs doing that. There's no one saying, here's how you really, lead well, or here's how you really, these things that like, man, we just need that. We just need the philosophy inside of us change so much. So I wanted to kind of create something with a little bit more staying power, a little bit more magazine value, obviously without being in the print industry, which is not necessarily doing the best right now. So yeah, so that I just kind of reached out to people and put that together, and that's been going. We're about to do our 46th issue in December. So that's almost 4 years, right? An issue every month. So
yeah, I hear lots of my friends at different churches and stuff. They'll talk about their use of Sunday Mag, and it's cool to hear other people talk about how much they're enjoying it and stuff. It just kind of speaks to the widespread appeal of what you're putting out in the magazine and stuff. You're also doing the photography site MoPhoto, which is it's you like how I ran it together.
Yeah, you gotta be careful with that, right?
MoPhoto for those that need some good imagery and stuff to post within their blogs and whatnot. And you got the now worship set design ideas, or worshipsetideas.com.
And series ideas.
Yeah, sermon series ideas.com. You've got all these different things, and I really think it's great because you're really leveraging the platform of community kind of coming together and sharing what they're doing and helping each other to improve what they're doing. You've got a lot of experience now in all of those different areas and kind of seeing what the church world is putting out. What are some things that you've kind of gathered through this process that you would say to somebody that's kind of getting started in the church world, in the media world, maybe you'd caution them towards?
Yeah. I think one of the big things is this false mentality that there's some sort of secret sauce or some sort of, secret recipe that the big churches have that the little churches don't. We think, okay, it has to be this right combination of stage design, lighting, haze, amazing worship with super low end subs, and all this stuff that not super low end is in cheap, but like low end is in bass. We think it's all these things that come together that somehow make a church creative or a church effective, or but really, man, every single person in this industry is just kind of blindly kind of stumbling their way through it. They're trying to figure it out just like everyone else is. Maybe they have a few more resources, maybe they have connections with people who've done amazing things, but how I got into this, I had no idea stage design was a thing. I did it probably wrong. I did it maybe a little bit more expensive than it needed to be, but I just tried it. I just did something, and just whatever was in my brain, I wanted to make it happen, and I figured it out. And I was highly under-resourced. But that's what I would encourage people to do is, man, I mean, barring safety, is figure out how to do it. Just decide, okay, this is what we want to accomplish. Just because no one's done that before doesn't mean that this isn't the most amazing idea we can come up with, and man, you're going to fail horribly and do some really bad ideas. which we've done so many bad ideas. When I was working at a church, I think of, oh my goodness, some of the stuff that we did. And but it was good, and I learned. And through those kind of struggles and through that, just kind of, oh, let's try here, that doesn't work, that doesn't work, I think you come up with some really cool ideas. I always get excited when people say that, you know, seemingly impossible situations they find themselves in working at a church, which everyone's in that situation, right? I always get encouraged because I say, you know, that's where you're going to learn. And maybe, you know, with a pastor who doesn't want you to try this creative expression, maybe you'll never get that way. You'll never get somewhere with that pastor saying, okay, he'll let you finally have free reign. But you're going to learn some things so that when you finally do get into a situation where you have full control over the creative element, you're going to have learned a lot about working with people, a lot about what, you know, maybe you shouldn't try, what you should try. It's a good learning experience. So man, just try. I think that's a lot of things people are afraid to do. They think, oh, if I can copy what someone else has done, that's it. That's what's successful. But no, so much of it's about context and about finding what's right for your congregation, your community, your pastor. Every church DNA is different. And, you know, just thinking about, I'm not going to be the same way. My creativity, my creative voice is not going to be the same as a Hispanic person's voice or a Black man's voice or a Black woman's voice or a church that primarily reaches, you know, all these things. It's so much a part of our DNA and culture, and we just have to really be true to that and just try stuff, you know?
Yeah. You speak and participate at some of the greatest media conventions, conferences, workshops all around really the globe. You've kind of spoken some pretty cool places and stuff. I followed you for some time. People, it seems to me that there's this notion that social media, for instance, is the way we're going to reach a young demographic. Loud music or lots of lights is the way we're going to reach the millennials. And it's almost like there's a lot of assumptions being made of the styles that people like, the styles that people respond to, and the correlation on what every church should be doing based on those assumptions. What have you found in your experience as you've traveled around, as you've participated in different churches and stuff? What have you found that kind of breaks those molds?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think I heard, I think it was N.T. Wright say this, and it's something that I realized was just complete truth. Is he said, you know, each generation, they have to discover Jesus for themselves, meaning they don't do it in the context of what's been happening for millennia. You know, they're not like, okay, my parents experienced Jesus this way. There's a good chance your children are not going to experience Jesus the same way you did. So a lot of times it's a break from that tradition. So that means, you know, there's a whole generation of people growing up right now who have grown up in the megachurch model, and they're probably not really going to experience Jesus in that. They might actually really be drawn to liturgical, you know, to this deep spiritual liturgy readings and you know, hymns and things like that. They actually might be drawn to more of that. They don't want the media. They don't want all this crazy stuff. They actually want to experience Jesus in a new way that they've never really kind of seen it happen, even though it's been happening like that forever, right? And then what happens is, so they experience Jesus and they say, wow, I found this new thing that no one knows about. And it's me and Jesus, and it's personal. And then what happens is, as they mature, they start kind of feeling that need to get tied back into, they start realizing, okay, maybe Christianity is something bigger than just what I'm experiencing now. Maybe there is actually something to this historical church and this historical thing that's been going on for so many years. And then they start getting tied back into that sort of more traditional, and that's traditional, whatever that is. That might be a megachurch model. That might be, you know, Catholic model or Episcopalian model, or, you know, any different type of model. And it's interesting that, you know, people will kind of, they want to experience God in a new way and something that will feel genuine to them. So, you know, what they say is millennials always want the real thing. They don't want phoniness, which every generation's that way, right? But it's kind of in a new manifestation of that. It's not like it's somehow a new thing, like, oh, millennials are the only ones who don't want fake Christianity. No, they just need to experience it in a way that's unique for them. So, man, there are churches, you know, I've been to churches that are hardcore Baptist style. Like I went in Dallas, I went to the Village, which Matt Chandler's just hardcore Bible, gospel. They're not seeker friendly in any form, but he's highly effective to reaching young people. And then you have Fellowship Church, which is another place that I went, which is all seeker friendly, all flash, all lights, all amazing. They're reaching young people. It's just going to be really being true to yourself. And I think that's the whole idea of not being phony. Is, man, if as a pastor, I want to reach young people, and I would love to have the big production, the big, light show, stage design. That's going to be the best thing for you. At the same time, if you're a pastor and says, man, I want to reach young people, but I just want to reach them, just with the torn down, stripped down gospel, like the early church, that's what's going to be right for you. God calls each pastor, each church to a different mission, because we're all different people. There's not just one type. Well, it seems like there's one type of TV show on. It's those medical dramas or the cop dramas, right? That's the one type. And those seem to do well. That's maybe our mega church model, right? Yeah. But then there are comedies, there are dramas, there are action shows. All those things are to reach different people. And that's just, we're all different people, and we all kind of, God's determined to reach people, and he knows that we each respond to different things.
Well, I know you're an author of a couple of books. Created for More is that's your more recent one, right?
Well, Unwelcome is like technically a month newer than that.
Okay. Unwelcome, and that's a book that basically kind of talks through ways to make visitors to your church feel unwelcome, right? It's kind of tongue-in-cheek, and of course, I would recommend both books. And JonathanMalm.com kind of has all of the different Jonathan Malm platforms and stuff. What are some, before we go, what are some resources that you would throw out there that you think, okay, churches, no matter what your style is, no matter how much media you're doing, these are some great resources that you would throw out that you'd say, definitely look into these if you have budget, or even some of them are free, I bet.
Yeah. Getting a good media company, like a good place to get media, like visual media. So that'd be, Graceway Media, Worship House Media, Igniter Media. Those three are some big ones for me that I like. Finding a good, ProPresenter is kind of my favorite presentation tool. It's a little more expensive. I think it's $400, but it's pretty phenomenal, the things you can do with it. I actually just recently went through with my church and showed them how to use ProPresenter, a program that we had. And like, they'd bought a clock to put on the back wall. And I'm like, we can do that with ProPresenter really easily using a confidence monitor, which we already have. And he's like, wait, what? Like, and then, the different things that, so often I think we get programs and we just don't assume we assume we know what they can do just by looking at them. And man, you just got to read some tutorials and kind of get in there. You'll find a lot of the tools that you might already have at your church can do some pretty amazing things. Unsplash is a photo site that's great. It's kind of like my MoPhoto site, but free. Unsplash, free photos.
Did you just promote another photo site other than yours that's free?
Hey man, MoPhoto is an option if you want it, but Unsplash is amazing.
No, go check out MoPhoto. Don't go to Unsplash. Yeah. Go check out MoPhoto.
No, I use Unsplash, and I have unlimited access to MoPhoto. So, it's just, finding what you need where you need it. There are resources out there if you just Google them. A lot of pages have, the kind of the listing of resources out there. There are so many that I feel like I'd be a kind of a jerk to not mention all of them. Because I know a lot of the people making them, and they're all really good people. So
you actually, I think we were speaking at the conference down there in Houston, and you pointed out the Shift Worship app when that first came out. I've loved that, being able to make the backgrounds and stuff for moving backgrounds with whatever
on your
photo
phone
or video put on there.
Yeah,
it's a great one.
If you guys aren't familiar, Shift Worship. It's an app for your phone that lets you take a picture, create it, and turn it into a motion graphic. It's just pretty cool that you can do it on your phone, and I think it's like dirt cheap. It's really cheap. So
it might have been $5 or something like that. Whatever it was definitely worth it.
Yeah, it's cheaper than a motion background you get from a site. So
any real profound people you'd say got to follow this guy? If you can narrow it down to 2 or 3, other than at Jonathan Malm.
You're killing me because I have a lot of great friends that do some cool stuff. Stephen Brewster's one that everyone seems to love. That guy so much. I love him. Like, of all the people my wife has met, like, she's met a lot of people and they're like, man, they're kind of weird people. But Stephen Brewster is one of the guys that she's like, that guy is cool. So
Okay.
Stephen Brewster is a great one. You know, following the Seeds folks, Church on the Move, they're really cool and transparent about the stuff that they do, which I love. I might go with those two just to not try to get myself in trouble other than that.
Yeah, we'll leave it at that. And again, before we go, I'll plug website again at Jonathan Malm is Twitter handle, and you can find him on the website at jonathanmalm.com, and you can find all the other platforms there. And Jonathan, I appreciate you taking your time, sharing some of your wisdom, your wealth of knowledge with us, and I'm sure the students appreciate it as well.
Hope so.
All right, man. Have a good one.
You too.